Hi and welcome to Kegels and Coffee. My name is Isabel and I'm your host. This next recording with Klaas Williams was very unplanned. I met Klaas one day climbing in Siurana right after I'd landed in Spain. At the crag, he decided to tell me the epic story of his and his father's ascent of la traversée de la Meije in the Massif des Ecrins in France. I barely knew him, but I asked if he would be willing to share this terrifying, hilarious, and heart-wrenching story from my podcast. He agreed. Klaas was born in 1986 in Leuven, Belgium, with a genetic lung and digestive disease called cystic fibrosis. CF causes severe damage to the lungs, digestive system, and also other organs in the body. One of the first things the doctors told Klaas when he was just a little boy was that he was not going to live long. Since then, he's been told more than once that he has no more than 6 years to live. But in the meantime, Klaas discovered rock climbing, a sport that not only helped him strengthen his lungs, but it also gave him purpose and drive. In the summer of 2012, he decided to join his father in his third attempt to climb his dream mountain, la traversée de la Meije. A father-son ascent, like that done by Gaspard de la Meije with his son Pierre in 1877. Klaas and his father reached the summit. However, on the descent, things did not quite go according to plan. But Klaas was determined that this was not the way he was going to die. His story made my hair stand on end. It brought tears to my eyes, and it also made me laugh really, really hard. Today, 35 years old, Klaas is crushing the sport climbs, climbing the big walls, and bolting in Sardinia, where he has helped develop the climbing sector in Ulasai. In 2017, he did his first 8C, named Still Alive, a line that he bolted. If you happen to stop in Sardinia to climb, please refer to the show notes for his recommendations on routes.
No, seriously, what am I doing with my life?
How did that come across? Did they hear me?
I feel like I'm losing my fucking mind.
You're messed up.
I need to just Netflix and chill.
Like I'm gonna meditate like a badass.
It's just like this psychotic break, and then I get my period, and I'm like, oh, it was just your period again.
Am I the only one feeling this crazy? Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. It's interesting to do an episode with somebody that I just met. But I just have to say, the other day when we were climbing together here in Siurana, Catalonia, I was so intrigued by the stories that you were telling, and specifically the story that we're going to tell today about you and your dad in the mountains. I felt the instant need to tell the story. And I know you have had, things published about you. You're a very proficient climber and people know about you and know you. But for me specifically, just the details of the stories that you shared about that moment in the mountains with your dad really touched me. I had goosebumps, they made me laugh, they brought tears to my eyes, and so I couldn't help myself. So I really appreciate, that you were willing to just come and sit with me today and talk about that. I want to start with a little bit of background for the listeners.
Yeah.
So if we could just dive into, some childhood aspects, some medical history, and how you got into rock climbing, and also how that led to the relationship that you had with your dad personally, but also the climbing relationship that you guys have.
Okay, let me think. So I was born in 86. And my sister was already born in 84, and she was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis after a couple months because she was having a hard time in the beginning, and they didn't know what it was until they finally, after 3 months, they found out it was cystic fibrosis. And then they could give her the medication for it. And then when I was born, 2 years after, my parents knew already, and they directly realized that one of the things with cystic fibrosis is that the main problem is the salt, and you sweat out more salt, and that's how they do the test to see if you have cystic fibrosis, a sweat test. And when I was crying, the tears they tasted more like salt, so they knew like, okay, he also has cystic fibrosis. So I started the medication directly from when I was born. A part of cystic fibrosis is a digestion disease and the lungs. Those are the two parts it affects the most. It's like it's a mutation in the DNA. So yeah, it's a genetic disease. We grew up with the idea, that's what the doctors told my parents, that we would not get old. Like first it will be probably that we would not finish school, and then later on it was like high school, and so we always had the idea and expectation of not gonna live very long.
Wow.
And my parents, they chose for the idea to give us the information about it and not keep us in the dark, which I like, but it's also a hard thing because you grew up and you have kids in your classroom that like probably you will die before for them. And one of the things that my parents wanted to do is not only trust on the medication that the doctors prescribe, but also have a healthy life. So eat healthy and do a lot of sport. And right when we were born, in that same period, my father started to rock climb. And one of the climbs that he did first with a group of the Alpine Club in Belgium, they went close to La Meije in the same valley, the hut below, to climb easier things. Mm-hmm. And my father, he saw that climb, the mountain, La Meije, and it's like a traverse that you start from one side, La Bérarde, and you traverse the whole mountain and you go down on the other side in La Grave. And that was a climb that the first time he went to this outdoor expedition, like a week or something, that he always said, I want to go back and climb this mountain. And yeah, but me and my sister, we needed a lot of help with our therapy, and we were always sick and in hospital, so there was not so much time to do all these things. But then later, when we got older, I, sadly enough, never started climbing, and I started playing football, which I don't understand. But yeah, now I regret it that I didn't start from a kid, because we went to the rocks.
Eventually.
With the parents, but we just played at the rocks, climbed one line, and that was it. So not really climbing. But then one of my best friends, he lived next to the climbing gym, and then I started climbing when I was 18. Mm-hmm. And in that period, my father was still doing expeditions, and around that time, he already did the first try to do the mountain with 2 friends, but they were too slow and they had to come down. And then later, when I started climbing, that was around 18, but actually more sport climbing. So I never went to the mountains also because from hospital out, we always got the idea that you have cystic fibrosis, you have a lung disease, better to stay inside, be careful, don't get sick, you can get a pneumonia, you always just be careful. And you get a bit locked inside because of this. Like you're too afraid to go outside because everybody already says that you cannot do it. Like you have a bad lungs, so it's not good to go to high altitude because you cannot handle it. You'll have problems here. So I was sport climbing most of the time, and I already didn't want to go to Seus because it was at higher altitude.
Right.
And then because of that, I just never tried. And if you never try, you never know.
You never know. It's like a paranoia. It's almost like a premonition. Like you are manifesting what you are being told in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have like, I don't know, like an animal in a cage. You never open the door because you're afraid. You always got taught to stay inside. And so it was always... something that you just like, it's very easy to just say like, I cannot do that.
Yeah,
so you just
exactly.
don't do it.
Yeah.
Like I'll stay inside, and I don't do that because I cannot.
Yeah.
And with climbing, I thought the same thing. And then I was like, that level is too hard for me. I cannot. But then with climbing, I started to realize like, hey, I can do this. I can climb harder. So that was a first step to realize, it's possible. And around, when was that? 2008. Around 2008, my father went for a second time to La Meije with another friend, and they did it and they slept because, like, I'll explain a bit. Like, you go to 3,000 meter is the hut, and it's already on the rock, so you sleep there. Then the idea is that you wake up very early and you make it to the summit. But the summit is like halfway, because from there you traverse the ridge all the way to the other side. And from there you rappel down and go to the other valley on the other side of the mountain. And with his partner, they were a bit slow, so they slept before the summit. And the next day, they made it to the summit, but then the bad weather arrived, and in the end, they climbed somewhere wrong. So they called the helicopter, and the helicopter got them off the mountain, because the helicopter was already there before to check on them, and they thought like, it's gonna be okay. But then when they went wrong again, they were like, if we don't call the helicopter now, maybe we're in a storm and this can be bad. So the helicopter came to get them, and he always wanted to go back, and he was saying that he wanted to do it with a mountain guide, because then at least, you have the possibility. And that was in the same time that I started to climb more and more, because the doctors gave me, when I was 20 years old, said like, if you don't change anything in your life, I just started climbing a bit, not so much. But I was living in a city with in a community house back in the day that you could smoke everywhere. So my friends in the community house, they were smoking inside, and for me it was all like fine, but actually it was destroying my lungs more and more. And in that period, the doctors told me, like, if you don't change anything on your life, you have 6 years to live, and then you will probably need a double lung transplant or die. And then it totally changed my approach in life, and I said, okay, I will go try to travel more, go climb more outside, take more care of my health and all those things. And actually my health, my lung function stayed kind of the same since then, so that was really good. And then I thought, okay, maybe I can go with my father to try the mountain. I've never been to the mountain before, but I said to him, like, okay, if you pay for my alpine material, because I have nothing of that stuff, then I can try to do it with you, because I have a good climbing level for rock climbing. And I just told him, if you do the ice and the snow, I think we can be fine. So we started that plan. The first year we had bad weather, so it didn't work. And then the year, we went to try to climb the mountain, and it was quite some experience.
I know. Okay, I have a couple of questions really quickly, out of curiosity. When your dad started climbing and you were still young, how old was he, just more or less?
Was that 30, 35, in between, something like that.
Very
so,
young. Yeah. And then by the time that you guys attempted this climb, which we'll go into, how old was he then?
Wait. 58. Yeah, and that was also the thing. He said, like, when he was 30, 33, I don't know, when he saw the mountain the first time, he said, like, before I'm 40, I want to climb it. And it didn't work. And then I was like, before I'm 50, I want to climb it. And then it was like, before I'm 60, I want to climb it. Yeah.
That's why I was asking, because, like, that's a span, like a long time. Yeah. That's really, really cool. Also, and then we'll come back to this climb, because I'm so excited to talk about that experience, and, sort of like what it did to you and your father. I just can't help but ask, because it just touches me so much, this idea of at a young age being told, like, you only have these many years, and then it's like, oh, maybe a few more, and then maybe a few more, because I guess I'm asking because I feel like obviously as we grow older, we have, different perception and emotional processing capabilities. As a little child, you're not processing things, on a philosophical or psychological level. Like you're just, things are still simple and you're like, oh, here are these classmates, I'm going to die before them. Versus in your 20s, when your doctor told you, hey, if you won't change something about your life, you are more capable of saying, okay, I comprehend that. Even though it's scary, I can access something within me that helps me process and make decisions for my life, such as going climbing internationally and traveling internationally. So I'm just curious, even just picking like 2 or 3 points of your life, what your relationship was emotionally with the idea that you won't live long.
Yeah, when you're a kid, it's like, I don't know, it's a hard thing, and there is different kind of ways to deal with it. Like, for instance, my sister, she always said, I'm going to grow, I'm going to get very old. So that's like, for me, it was a bit like, trying to not see reality.
Okay.
I mean, that's a way of processing it in one way. And I was more like, I'm going to die soon. So what's the point? A bit more like that. Also not good as a kid, for sure. Like I did a lot of things that were like not healthy, and I didn't care. Like I said, I was living with people who smoked. I went to bars. There was even a year I was living in a squat that was like complete humid, no electricity, and like those are the things that I shouldn't do. But I was more like, I do what I want. I'm not gonna get old anyway.
Yeah, like fuck it.
Yeah. And then when I got older and I found something like climbing that I really liked, then suddenly when a doctor at the age of 20 tells you like, it's really like, it's not gonna happen in the future, it's gonna happen really soon, like 6 years, that's like suddenly is like a wake-up call. Yeah. And it took me a long time. I mean, it was in the middle of the exams of university, and I was like, for a long time, quite annoyed with my doctor. It was like, that's not the best time, a week for the exam start, to get that news. So the exams totally failed. And afterwards I was like, I mean, why actually am I going to study if in 4 years I graduate or something, and then like 2 years later I died? And
right.
So you have like a whole different way of perception to it.
Of course.
But then at that time, there was two things. Like one, that you almost get like an expiration date. They don't really say that's the day you're gonna die. They say like, if you don't change anything. So that's like, it's not gonna happen then, but you have to change something. So that is one thing. And the other thing is that my sister, she's 2 years older, and I kind of always saw the future with her because she had more health problems. So I always had like a kind of a mirror to look at cystic fibrosis with her, which was, very confronting in one way. But on the other hand, it could help me a lot because like, people don't realize anything until they see it, like, I mean, how many people that you say you should stop smoking, they only realize it when they get like, cancer or something, but then it's too late. Yeah. I was lucky that with my sister, I could see it before it was too late for me. Like, sadly enough for her, it was, she was living it in the present, but I could see like in the future. It. And that could help me a lot to say like, okay, I don't want to get at that point like in a wheelchair. She got like double lung transplant when she was 20 years old. So when I was like 18, I was like, I don't want to go there. So that's why it's kind of in the same time that I started to climb, and that is something that really helped me a lot. To say, okay, if I don't want to get there, I have to do more sport. I have to be careful for my lungs. I have to pay more attention to all these things. Yeah.
What I love about it, and this is, one of the reasons I love climbing, I just see the positive effects it has on people that get like really excited about climbing on different levels. And in this case, what I'm seeing is, there's obviously like the physical health aspect of it, but there's also that mental empowerment that you discovered through it, and this way of having it connect you with your dad. So like, I just really love, you know, the history of it. It's not just like, oh, and then I discovered climbing and I was obsessed with it. There are all these levels and this depth of why climbing changed your life. And here we are. How old are you today?
35. Yeah, for me, I always say this, climbing saved my life.
Yeah.
If I, you know, like you need in life some motivation before you want to do certain things. And before climbing, for me, there was no reason to stay healthy because I didn't find something that I really wanted to work for. And because I had like a kind of a different childhood with, I mean, normally you work for the future. But in my life, I didn't have that future. So there was not really something to look forward to. It was more like, okay, you know, at some point I'm going to die while everybody else has their life and that's it.
Yeah.
So there was no motivation, and other people can find this in something else. But with me, it was really climbing that got me to the point that I said, okay, I'll do my aerosol, I do my therapy, I do all these things. I stay away from smoke, I stay away from campfires, I stay away from cities. And in that way, I did that not because like, it wasn't that I wanted to go there. With climbing, I just loved it to go climb. I didn't miss the concert with the smoke. I didn't miss all these things.
Yeah.
It's like it was more like doing the therapy every morning and every evening is like, it's not fun. But when you realize that, you know, sometimes I had this that in the evening I'm like, I can breathe so well, and then you realize, I forgot to do my therapy.
Right.
So then you do it because the next day you want to go climb, and if you want to go climb, you need good lungs and you need to be at your best because I want to send the project and I wanna get better, and I have. You know, I want to be okay for in the summer to climb bigger things, bigger objectives.
Yeah. And I mean, not only are you a climber, you're a very, very strong and talented climber. I mean, I just saw you climbing that one day that we went out in Ciurana, but I'm pretty impressed. I'm also impressed by the fact that you went to college. I mean, I just like in my own head, I'm thinking about that. Like what you were saying, if somebody were to say, hey, you only have these many years left, I feel like I would have said, fuck college. Like, I just want to go do, but then again, you're so young. So it's like, well, what do I want to do? Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like I went 2 years after high school, I didn't go do anything. And I was like, okay, I was just, doing unhealthy stuff, let's say, like going to concerts.
I mean, it's also
and,
that age where you have to kind of like let loose and stuff.
I mean, you have to make mistakes in life to learn from them. And
Yeah.
that was, those were definitely I had some amazing experience there and I had some really good time, but I mean, I learned from it, but I was a bit also at that point, like this cannot be my life.
Right.
And after 2 years, I was like, maybe I should, like I went to study social work because it was something that interested me a lot. And yeah, that was only after half a year that it was already like, you know, I was 2 weeks in hospital, and after the second week, in the end, the results from my lungs didn't get better, even with 2 weeks of antibiotic, IV antibiotic.
Wow.
And then I was like, then the doctor came to tell me because, that was the timing to say it. It was like the worst because I was for 2 weeks studying from morning till evening in hospital, and then they say this news and try to concentrate afterwards.
Oh my God, no way.
Yeah, so I completely failed in all the tests.
Imagine. I mean, your mental capacity and ability to focus is, just that doesn't seem like a possibility. Even.
Yeah, but maybe that was then also like a good thing that happened because I then said, okay, maybe I go work on a campsite. I went to Turkey to work on a campsite for a couple months, and I realized how amazing that was. I learned how to bolt routes. I was about to say, I feel like it was a blessing in disguise. That's how when you were said, and he came to tell me, right before the finals, I was like, but in some ways it was like shitty timing and perfect timing because it's like you needed to move forward. And my other thought was, it's almost like you're on this like highway of learning, because I feel like the things that you're telling me about are things that I have come to conclusion to later in my life, as far as like wanting to live more outside and be outside and climb outside and like less of the city life and less of the concerts, which obviously growing up in Germany,
my teenage years and, until 1920 when I left to the US was all about that. Concerts, smoking inside, like partying hard. And it's kind of cool in that sense, I guess, just hearing you, talk about how you got to that, obviously, because of your circumstances so much quicker.
But that was also how my parents taught for us. Like we shouldn't postpone those things. If our kids want to do something, we do it now, not like later,
right.
Because we just never know.
Exactly.
Like in the beginning, they really said if you don't get 12 years old, then what's the point of we went to school, but sometimes we went earlier off school to go to the osteopath to get some massage or something, or whatever they had financially, they tried to support us as much as they could from the start. Not say we will give this when you graduate or something. It was no, let's live now. And I mean that's not only something good for me, but I think for a lot of people,
anyone, just the present moment, live now. Yeah,
because everybody can get sick at some point,
anytime, and get into an accident, or
So and in that way, I kind of learned to live my life as well. To if I die tomorrow, I'm okay. That's a different. I mean, I don't want to die tomorrow, but if that happens, until now, I lived a good life.
Nice.
So you're kind of a bit more relaxed with that,
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you. I think being able to look back, and I feel kind of lucky because, obviously, I've had a very privileged life, but I don't really look back feeling any major regrets. I mean, small ones, but generally speaking, I feel pretty content. And this idea of if I died tomorrow, I wouldn't feel that I necessarily forgot to do something or, something like this, where it's you stay present, you appreciate where you are, even during the hard times, but obviously you're always, seeking your own truth and making decisions accordingly.
Yeah, the bucket list is not completely full.
No, never. Okay, I could talk about all this stuff forever, but I want to get to the juicy parts of the story. So let's dive into that climb that you did with your dad, and I'll let you begin where you would like to begin.
Yeah. So. It was not so easy to organize because my father still had his job. He had needed a holiday. He was, I think at the time, he was cycling a lot with a cycling group, and he did just 2 weeks of cycling, doing the calls of the Tour de France and stuff with the group.
That's
so he was what we both thought in good shape, but cycling is still something different than walking. And the first mountain we did, it was something around 3,000 meter, went pretty well. But on the way down, I just went faster to the car because I like to run down because I think it's a fun thing to do. But my father was a bit slower. So I was just we go to the same parking lot. And I was waiting for 1 hour and a half, and he still wasn't coming. So I went back up, and he was totally... I think, he said he didn't have enough minerals or something because not enough water. So he almost fell off the walking trail, he said at one point. And I was oh. And that made me, stress maybe a little bit for the mountains because, I never went to the mountains before. When I was 12, we did one 4,000 meter peak, just walking, with my cousin and him, one time that, and that was so long ago, and I was just walking on ice. Was a cool experience, but I wouldn't say that that was really alpine climbing. And I was a bit stressed because it was the unknown, and I just said already to him okay, I don't know anything of those things. I am a sport climber, So I don't know how all those things work. You will have to do that. I'll lead climb those things. You do the snow and ice, and we make it. But he was already pretty tired there. And then my father's idea was we go up to the hut, but we do it slowly. And we stay in the hut, and then we do a little peek there. We go back to the hut and sleep, and then do the next day because we had good weather. And that day went really well. We did like a shorter multi-pitch of 7 pitches. And it was also the start of the traverse of the Meije. So the first couple 100 meters is like class 2 terrain, like almost like scrambling a bit. And we went pretty fast, so that was good. But then the next morning, when we left at 4 in the morning, I had to say as well that at 3,000 meters, my father starts to have like altitude sickness. So, and that's maybe where we made the mistake of staying there so long. But he said that for the first time ever, he felt quite okay because he takes Viagra for it.
This is something that I was wanting to talk about because I had no idea that Viagra is something that people use for altitude sickness.
Yeah, me neither.
I guess it makes sense. Do you want to quickly just explain the background of that?
Yeah, I mean, apparently Viagra was invented for a heart problem, and then they just realized that some other things work as well with it. So yeah, he got that, and he loved also to say this to people because it's a funny thing, I bought Viagra in the pharmacy. I go climbing, but so it worked that day. But the second day, maybe I don't know, he was like already a bit more tired, and the thing was that I walked first, but a lot of times I was going with the rope too fast, and it's not so fun. So I said okay, you go first. We know this part because we did it yesterday. And you just make the speed and I follow.
Totally.
And already there, he walked not on the trail. I was like, where are you going? It's left. And I was like, so we went a couple times wrong. And then people were passing us because I said we go really in time. We woke up really early. I did my therapy already and then to go. But I was a bit stressed, so I wanted to go as soon as possible. And then suddenly people are passing us, and even some people are like, are you guys the 2 Belgians? And then my father left his phone to charge and he forgot it. So those people are like, here's your phone. So it was like, oh man, I in that moment I was just looking to the ground, like I have no idea what we're doing here. Don't look at me. This is not my terrain. It was a bit of a funny start already.
Right.
So then, as soon as the scrambling ended, everybody was already in front of us.
Wow.
And so then I started to lead climb. And that went pretty okay. We found the way. And then just before the summit, you have like the Glacier Carré. Like it's the glacier, like quite steep, but you traverse it on the side. But it's this thing that if you slip down, you go down a 800-meter rock face. So it's like...
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's quite long, so you have time to brake.
To hopefully brake, but also if you're aware.
Yeah,
enough,
but it's such a famous climb. When it's good weather, every day 15 teams do it. So you have actually already the footsteps in the snow. So it's quite okay. But for me, I've never been there. You look down and you're like, okay, if I fall, then how we organize? In the end, we didn't fall, so that's good. We made it to the summit, but then already the wind started to pick up. And what we didn't know, but the climbing guides in front were already communicating with the hut. And they all said, if you see the Belgians, because the 2 huts are really checking everybody. They already said, if you see them, tell them that the weather isn't going to be good. The storm is coming.
Oh, wow.
And it was already a lot of wind. And my father is the kind of person that likes to stop for pictures and all that stuff. And I had no experience in the mountains. I had a down jacket, a sweater, and a t-shirt, but that was way not...
Yeah, you were climbed as a sport climber.
Yeah, I had no idea.
On a cold day.
I had no idea of all these things I made. For instance, my the mountain boots that I got, I ordered them at the size of sport climbing shoes. So they were like, like with my toes cramped. So my feet were freezing. So cold. Yeah. I mean, total beginner, and then we were at the summit, but that's like kind of halfway. And I always was to my father like, okay, let's go, because I had to move. But every time I make a pitch, I go really fast. I wait at the anchor and he goes really slow. And I was like, so I arrive at the anchor quite okay. But by the time he's with me, I'm super cold and we had to move. And already the whole time also I had like this strong heartbeat. That
you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I thought it was from the altitude and cystic fibrosis, because I've never been to that altitude.
Right.
But I felt like my body wasn't really well. Yeah. But I thought, I don't know, it's like from my too small shoes. Is it from the cold? Is it from the altitude? Is it from the wind? I don't know.
Many options.
Yeah, there were too many options. As much as we went, we traversed. We arrived to the glacier, the gully, with ice.
What time was it then?
That was like, I think we summited at 12. Mm-hmm. And they kind of said like, if you arrive after 12 to the summit, you're not going to be back before 8. They were already saying to have an ID. They said. In the hut, they explain everything. They were like, okay, just prepare. The weather is going to be good, they said. So it's going to be okay, but you're going to get in the night. So I checked, okay, it's 12. Maybe if we hurry, we will still make it, So we arrive at the glacier, the gully. And my father there was already quite destroyed. So he said to me, can't you do this? And like I said, I've never done all these things, but I heard there is apparently there is a cable. It's like a very touristic alpine climb, so there is a cable. And I heard a mountain guide say to the client when we were preparing, to the client, just grab the cable when you follow. And in my mind, I was like, I don't know how an ice axe works. I left it on the backpack because I was like, I'll just grab the cable. So I was grabbing the cable, and then halfway the cable went into the ice, and I was there, like I couldn't reach my ice axe.
No.
And I was just like, what to do? So I just went slab climbing style, as high as I could with my crampons, and then did a little jump to catch the cable when it went back out of the ice.
Oh my God!
If I would have seen myself do that, I would
terrible.
Yeah, that was
so sketchy.
Yeah. This is as sketchy as can be. I mean, and that's sadly enough not the most sketch things that we are doing there. I mean, it's all fun because now I know, because I survived.
Now we're all alive. Yeah, your dad's still alive. Everybody is so.
But I was in that point, and then I was already like, we have to hurry. And suddenly my father in the background, like, Klaas, can you wait a bit? I want to take a picture. And I was like,
oh no,
leave the camera inside. Like, I don't want any picture. So there's not much image from us doing that. But then the fog came and the wind started to come, and we still had to do a couple traverses from the ridge, some rappels. And then in the end, we arrive at the last peak that we had to go back up with snow. And that my dad was like, I have no idea about these things. You have to go up. Like, you do that. And okay, because that's actually super easy, but I had no experience. So he did that. We arrived at the summit and then started to look for the last rappels. And in the hut, they said, don't take the wrong ones, because this north face is super steep and you go into nothing if you start rappelling wrong. And that is, of course, exactly what we did. So we took the wrong rappels. My father was going first, because also rappelling, I never did those things. Oh my so my dad went first. He said okay, and I come down, and he's just on a sling on a rock face, and I was like, this is not an anchor. No, but there's nothing else. And I was like, but then we shouldn't have gone here. And I was also at the point really tired and, like I said, completely cold.
So cold.
So I was at that point, I said, look, it's stay here and freeze to death, or you know what? And then I said, look, I don't want to freeze to death here. I'm going to untie again.
Oh my God.
I'm
sketchiest thing
gonna
ever.
untie and I'm just gonna traverse on this wall left and right to look if I find an anchor.
Oh my God. What time is it?
That was like around 7 or 8 in the evening.
Jeez. Oh, that's really
So yeah, and we
late.
started at
Yeah.
4 in the morning. So it was
Right.
like already a full day. I never done these things. I was not enough food. Like all the mistakes you can make, we kind of did. And luckily, I found the rappel line because a team before us forgot a quick draw on the ground, and I saw the quick draw lie on the ground in the snow, and I was like, there is something there. And then on the wall, I saw the anchor. So that was like,
Oh my goodness. Such
So,
a relief. Was
yeah.
it still light at this point?
yeah, there was
Okay.
still light. So there I was like, okay, I went back. I told my father, okay, traverse to this side. And okay, we made it. We did the last 2 rappels. And then we arrived at the glacier. My father was already at the point of, he's been in the mountains, but he was completely destroyed. So he was not thinking clear. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I felt like, okay, I have to make a decision. So I just said to him, like, look, there's so much time we're wasting. We have half an hour. And in my mind, I thought in half an hour, maybe we can find the hut in the light. And I was like, I don't want to waste time because everything took way too much time because, that I said a stupid thing, leave the ropes at the rappel and we go fast. Like I said, I never walked on a glacier in a storm. Like there was 150 kilometers an hour wind. But I just wanted to go fast. And again, stupid mistake, I know now. In a glacier, walking on a glacier.
You do not leave behind your ropes.
You do not leave behind your ropes. And for sure not if you have to cross a glacier. So, yeah, okay. Again, all these things completely wrong. I know more now of climbing.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, no, I know. But yeah.
Yeah, but okay. Then we could not find because we were walking way too slow because my father was just too tired. And we were just following the footsteps from the other people until we were at a flat place and we couldn't find the footsteps. And we got lost a bit there. My father had like this light one-person tent. And in the end, we said, we don't find it. We have to just do something. So we set up this tent, like my dad was inside. And then I was from the outside trying to set it up. While we were setting it up, it was already ripped at some part because the wind was too strong. But okay, we were inside, but we had no ropes to lie on because, so it was super cold.
Oh, man.
And there, we were like just like spooning to hold each other warm. And that's the thing, like I said, it was the funny thing that, like I always said, like, okay, I'm spooning with my dad on Viagra. I mean, that's like, that was just like...
You're like, is this his ice axe or...
I was just like, I hope it's an ice axe. I hope it's an ice axe. No, I mean, like... If you take Viagra, it's not that you have a heart on the whole climb.
No.
I mean, but still, it was like a funny
just
thing
like a
in my
funny
mind.
thought in your
It's
mind.
like, what the hell is going on? And then at that time, it was like midnight. And 2 hours, 3 hours later, 2 other people, we saw some lights. And I thought like, they come to look for us. And I was like, yes, they come to look for us. And actually, it was like a climbing guide from Chamonix with a client that also was lost. So they did another climb. They were way behind us. They were already like, we saw your ropes hanging. We didn't use them because we were like, that's not normal.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like, what's going on here?
And that was actually a funny thing. I was super happy to see them because we were not alone.
Right.
And my father was like, we don't really have room in this one-person tent. And I was like, what? We have, like, what are you saying,
Yeah.
But the guy was first, he said, okay, we go look for the hut. And but they couldn't find it. They came back. And then in the end, was like, I was happy because he's a mountain guide. He knows more what he's doing.
Right, and it's like kind of like you said, just the feeling of not feeling so alone.
Yeah.
Plus, like when you're cold, the more the merrier.
Yeah. For me, it was really fun. My father was just so destroyed, and he wasn't so freezing as me, that he even fell asleep there. And I was sitting like, well, that's amazing. Good for him.
You were so jealous.
Yeah, I was just like the whole time cold. And then in the end with the mountain guide, it was more relaxing because for him it was nothing was happening. In my mind,
He's
I was
like
maybe,
the typical epic.
yeah, for me, it was like, I don't know. I've never been in this situation. I don't know what's going to happen, how long we're going to be stuck here, and maybe I die, whatever.
Right.
I had no idea. But to have somebody there that is like more relaxed was really good. Like his client was also totally destroyed. And then at 7 a.m, I went with him. My father had like an altitude meter and he had a map. And we could see that at the altitude meter and the map, that the hut was like around like 100 altitude meters away from us. So we're like, at 7 a.m, I went with him to look for the hut. And like 150 meters further was the hut.
No,
yeah,
150
yeah,
meters. Can
maybe
you tell
a bit
me?
more.
Let's translate to feet. That's like times 10. I always forget. No, divided by 3? No,
wait.
times 3. Is it
Yeah,
times
like not less than half a mile or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
something
really
like this.
close.
Yeah, so like right around the corner. 150 is like you can see it.
Yeah. I mean, there was when we arrived there, and the first thing they see is like the logo of the guide, and they asked like in French, like, have you seen 2 Belgians? And I was like, yeah, I'm one of them. So then we went with the group back and get all the stuff, get my father and the other guy, and then we arrived there. And then, when we arrived there, that was the moment that my father was really like, okay, all the emotions came loose. He was like, I mean, yeah, we made it,
Yeah.
It was quite intense because, I mean, yeah, it was really like at some point, a couple of times I was really like, yeah, I don't know if we're
gonna make it. I was about to say, as many good laughs as we have had, and this is why I was so excited to tell this story when I was talking to you the other day. As many good laughs as I had, and you just make me laugh with like the way that you tell the story. I had goosebumps and tears in my eyes at the same time. Like you said, your dad came back to the hut and he was loaded with emotions. I think you said even that he started crying.
Yeah.
And then this idea of you like spooning your dad. In my life, I've never been in a situation where my dad and I were vulnerable to that point where like I am, holding him, feeling in some ways probably responsible or like partly responsible or worried about them. Like that is really, really intense because I mean, like you said, there were moments that you were like, are we going to make it? I mean, tell me more about that sensation. Cause I can't imagine.
Yeah. I mean, it was this thing like, yeah, of course, like you cannot even in a storm like that, you cannot call the helicopter. That was the reason that my father called them the time before. Like, and yeah, I mean, in a way, you have also this thing like you get yourself in this mess, like try to get yourself out of it.
Right.
But it was this point. It's just that if you have no experience whatsoever in that situation, and that's the first thing you get into, it's really like, okay, you have no idea. That's why it was so helpful for me to have this climbing guide, be more relaxed with it. And then I started to relax, and as soon as you can relax, you can see it a bit clearer, and then, okay, we go in the morning, we go look for the hut, it's going to be okay.
Like a game plan.
Yeah, then that was really good. But the problem was that from the 2 of the most experienced, my father, like with the altitude sickness, and like I said, I think if we would have done it the day before, the weather was good, but I think it was just too much, like to go do a climb, come back, and then do another climb.
Right.
That was maybe the wrong approach. But at the time, it looked like the smart thing to do. It made sense. But I think, like I said, with the acclimatization mountain that we did, he was already on the way down. I think he just like pushed it too much with the cycling, and he needed more break, but there was not so much time. And that's easy to say afterwards. But I mean, it wasn't a fun experience because that's like to do the dream mountain of my father, and I do it together with him. And also the first ascent of this mountain has been done by father and son. So Gaspard de la Meije did it with I guess he's the father or the son of the other. Like I don't know, but
what year was that? Do you remember more or less?
I think it was. It's one of the last mountains climbed because the easiest way, like to reach it, like the north face of the Eiger, you can walk from the backside. Like the peak has been reached.
Right.
Like there is difficult ways to climb it, but La Meije, that's the easiest. You have to climb like alpine stuff, class 5. It's like, what is that, like 5'9" or something?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's quite intense. And there was this race from the both sides, like La Berard and La Grave, were trying to reach the summit from both sides. And then in the end, it became so the traverse to do the whole thing. And that became the classic climb. But yeah, you have to, I think it's from 1900, beginning 1900,
Yeah, okay.
something like that, I think. Like,
When you were, so many questions that come through my head, but you have been confronted with, situations all your life that are about life or death, since the day you were born, basically. In this moment that you were hugging your dad or spooning your dad, do you remember kind of what was going through your heart or your mind when, I remember, you just said, I don't know if we're going to make it. Like, I can imagine also, for me, it makes me tear up, and I can't even imagine, but also I imagine that you're so cold and you're so tired and you're so hungry that in some ways, do the emotions almost like shut off in some ways, or?
I don't know, like in that period, because we were just not talking at that point. It's just like, try to, stay warm. And it was just in my mind, I had this like loop in my head, like not like this, not like this, not like this, not like this.
Yeah.
Because I was also like, I've had so much things already happen in my life that I survived. And there was also this thing of like, I like this too much to stop this already.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able to do one of those things like more relaxed. I want to be able to do this in a nice way, like I want to do this again. And I had this the whole time in my mind, like not like this. This is stupid. This is like, I'm okay to die in some way, but not like this. And especially imagine if we died in that tent and you're like a stone throw away from the hut. I mean, like, no way.
Like nothing.
Like I would literally roll around in my grave. Like, no, not like that.
I can imagine not like this. I hear you. And then like, oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, but that was then the whole thing. Like, I want to do something like this again. And actually, my father also said he wanted to do this in better style, because he was like, okay, I did the mountain climb, but it was like not so enjoyable. It was more like a sufferfest because of it. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, because it wasn't going so well. And I think if we were faster, we had light and we would find the hut, So I was a bit skeptical to do this again, but I had a bit in mind to do that. But yeah, like a week later, I went home because I wanted to go to Yosemite, and I did some normal checkup, and then they found on one of the pictures that there was a tumor next to my heart, the size of my heart. And the reason why I had problems sleeping from my heartbeat, and that I felt my heartbeat the whole time, was not because of the altitude and cystic fibrosis, but it was because my heart didn't have room to beat. And so that whole thing makes it even like more crazy, this whole experience. And yeah, that was also always in my mind. I want to do this mountain again. And actually, I then had a year of chemotherapy and radiation and stuff. And I even went back to the mountain with Nico Favres.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And but yeah, Nico Favres is from a bit of another level. And there was also he's an amazing climber, but organizing is always a bit chaotic.
Chaotic.
And he had a problem with his dog, and we didn't make it to the hut. And then he had an osteopath session the next day that he couldn't change. I was like, you know what we do? We go in the night. At midnight, we start walking up. We climb this 7A, what is that, like 12A multi-pitch. And then we go down and go back to the car. Like, instead of like what I did with my father, do it like 2 days approaching to the hut, climb it, sleep in the other hut, and then like climb back. We were gonna do that. And I was like, yeah, I have no idea, I'll try. And we made it until like the glacier where the route stopped. But then you have a last peak to really do the peak. And I completely, like, I was so destroyed. I mean, there it was me crying because I really wanted to make it to the summit, because to finish this whole thing. But I mean, I had like these new shoes that were not climbed in yet. My feet were hurting so bad I couldn't touch anymore. I was I never done something like that, you know, like you have a 6-hour approach to the base, then in the stars in the night we were crossing the glacier to reach the start of the climb. You have to traverse under this glacier where stones are all the time falling from 800 meters that you hear go. I mean, it was all like quite intense. Like for Nico, it's like just a normal day. Yeah, normal day. But I mean, it was amazing that we could do that part. But yeah, we didn't really make the summit. And actually, I still have something like I should make it to the top another time. But I mean, in a way, we still climbed on it, and it was like a nice way of being there again. Yeah. And now I also felt a bit how my father must have felt with me, because like,
I was about to say, because you were talking about your father crying, and so you actually did cry with Nico. I can imagine. I mean, that sounds very intense. This is why I don't do that kind of thing. But curious, when your dad came to the hut and emotionally, you know, kind of had that like meltdown, open up, finally release, how did you react?
I don't know. Like, I mean, that's maybe something with me that I don't know if it's because of all these problems with health and all, that at moments I have kind of difficulty to show emotions or something in certain situations, like, and not with everybody, and that's maybe a weird thing, but yeah, parents are parents, and like with friends it's still a different thing, but I'm just not good in that. And I think it's also because I kind of closed off a lot of times because there is just so much to deal with in my head. And that is also, so sometimes it's just a difficult thing for me to deal with. Yeah. So for me, I was just there like, we made it. We made it. We're back at the hut. Yeah, and also like I was already a bit more relaxed because, like I said, at the moment that these other people were there, I felt like, okay, you know, we're fine. Like we you know, there is somebody that knows what he's doing. And we can go with two, we can look for them. My father can stay with the other guy here, so they're with two. My father could sleep even, so he was not like freezing to death. So that was okay. You know, for me, I was happy to move already, you know, to go with the guy because I was just cold. Like, I was just too cold to stay there. Yeah. I mean, if only we had our ropes with us that we could sleep on instead of on the ice, but yeah.
Oh my God. So when you were climbing with Nico, was it something that happened like when you started crying, having that like, you know, that moment of like, you know, despair, if I can't anymore, this is too much. Was it when you guys were actually separated in the route, or were you guys together?
No, we were at the glacier where like the guidebook we had, the line stopped there. And then, but apparently we learned after that there is actually also to the summit, they made it later. But Nico never climbed the Meije, so he just wanted to reach the summit. So he was like, let's just do this other thing. But I don't know, in my head I had this thing like, okay, we did this is already a goal. And there he was like, you just go. And I started to make 2 steps. And I was just like, no, I can't. Like, I had too much pain. It's stupid. Like, I was too destroyed. I was too tired. And I was also like quite stressed to rappel the line and go under this glacier as well. And it was just like a bit of, I mean, there was also the thing, like, I was like in less than a year after my cancer, you know. I was still like in recovering. We were at Seus to climb a bit, and on a rest day Nico was like, why don't we go do that? And I was like, that's a good idea. And I was already stressed with our plan to go there, sleep, climb it, sleep and go back. But then suddenly it became approach, climb, descend, back to the car and do that in one push. And that was just, I've never done something like that in my life.
That sounds so intense.
I mean, it was amazing. And I'm very fortunate that I have like friends that take me on these kind of experiences that as soon as you do this once, you kind of learn again. Like the first time I go to Zeus, I can go to altitude. First time in the mountains, I can survive. My cystic fibrosis is maybe making it more difficult, but it's not impossible.
Yeah.
And the same thing as that, like, okay, we did a 20-hour climbing day. It is possible. I mean, I was destroyed. I was not in shape for that. But yeah, thanks to Nico, I realized that these things were possible, especially if I would train a bit more. So that opens again another door of possibilities. So it was an amazing experience, but emotionally, I think also I just wanted to stand on the top too much to then, see the summit and still go back because for me, I thought like, that's going to be another closure of this cancer thing. That then it's, it's out of my mind.
Yeah.
And then to feel like really want to and have the possibility, because Nico was like, I'll lead climb everything, you just have to follow. I take the backpack, what he made it as easy as possible for me. And then was really annoyed with myself that I couldn't push myself to
go there.
Yeah.
I am so impressed by your capabilities. I mean, just even the fitness that you have, despite your condition, it's like incredible. And like you were saying on this climb with Nico, that you were still pretty much recovering from chemo. I mean, that is, another level of getting after it and ambition. I really admire it.
Yeah, like that is also like, I don't know who said it, is this quote of like, the greatest things in life is doing things other people say you cannot do.
Yeah.
And it's like in hospital when they said, you have 6 more years to live. It's like, no, I will do more. Well, after the cancer, they said you have to realize that that you will not get to the same level as before. It's like, no, I will. No, I will, and then you just like, you want to prove them wrong. And it's like it's a good motivation. It doesn't have to be all the motivation, of course, but it's a good thing to say like, okay, And when I saw that and I was like, okay, I did this without any preparation. I mean, we were sport climbing and then suddenly Nico just like, let's do that. It's like, I actually want to do that, but I didn't train for it. And then you realize as well, it doesn't matter how much motivation you have, you still have to train a bit.
Yeah,
and I mean,
thank you so much for sharing all of that. It was just, I feel like I need to process everything, this whole story, and even just like sharing the circumstances with your health. And I was about to say, as far as the cancer goes, so the chemo was able to cure your cancer 100%?
Yeah. I mean, it was like Hodgkin is not like such a. I mean, if you want to get a cancer, that's kind of the one you want to get. It's just the problem is that the chemotherapy that they give you destroys the lungs, and it's the combination of that. I mean, and I had already cancer when I was 15, also Hodgkin. So it's like the second time you get to this whole process, the lungs get more destroyed. Then the radiation was again on the lungs, makes scar tissue on the lungs. And it's like, I mean, chemotherapy, it's invented from mustard gas, huh? Like, if you knew, like... Yes. So... War zone. Yeah, it's like the thing to kill people, and that is the stuff they inject in your system. I mean, so it's not healthy. It's not good for you. I mean, it cured me, but the side effects are really bad.
Intense, yeah.
And that was for me a bit more that I thought like, okay, I'm gonna have this again, and then afterwards it's gonna be fine again. I train, but then I realized like I did more damage than I was expecting, and then but I mean, I can still climb, and it's still.
Not only can you just still climb, I mean, you're trying some pretty hard stuff here in Tijuana, and I'm just, inspired, very inspired and touched by your capabilities and your willingness to come and sit with me here today and share all this after barely knowing you, because really we just went and climbed one day together. So, I really appreciate it, and I hope I get to climb with you some more.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, It's the first time I do a podcast, so it's a new experience. Yeah.
See, there's another one one in the bucket list.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope that we get to do more climbing together here. And you're going home, Sardinia, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when are you leaving?
In a couple of days.
Okay.
But we go climb now, no?
We go climb after this. Yeah. Once we wrap it up here, we're gonna go climb to El Pati. No, where are we going?
Calonassis, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to come visit you in Sardinia either way.
Yeah, it's an amazing place.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And please feel free to send questions, comments, and topics you would like to hear about to Isabel@kegelsandcoffee.com. That is ISABEL @kegelsandcoffee.com, or you can find me on Instagram under Kegels and Coffee. Take good care, stay tuned, and remember, when in doubt, drink coffee or do Kegels.